A ballerina's perspective, from performing with New York City Ballet and Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater to publishing poetry books and mentoring kids and teens. Join us in a weekly discussion with experts to gain mental health clarity and achieve growth in moral consciousness. Give our show a 5 stars, comment, share, and come along for the ride. Welcome to the Growth, Grace, and Gratitude podcast. Today, we will talk about creating a manageable, holistic lifestyle, how to maximize the longevity of joy, and aligning to the flow of abundance. Zib is currently studying a PhD investigating the hallmarks of aging and interventions that can help slow the speed of aging. He is the CEO at Ayus Wellness, a company aiming to help others achieve optimal health, performance, and longevity through a range of innovative products and coaching services. He is opening the Ayus Clinic later this year, a longevity and performance clinic focused on in-depth analysis across key pillars of holistic health. ClickFunnels easily build any type of online business and sales funnel in record time, no matter what your product, service, or niche, without any tech design or experience whatsoever. Try the ClickFunnels 14-day free trial, link in the description of the podcast, and a range of different therapies to supplement lifestyle and optimization. Father to 3 boys and a newly arrived baby daughter, and husband to wife Cassia, who is his partner in the businesses. Wow, congratulations. That's amazing. When it comes to holistic wellness and balance, I feel like balance is an overarching theme that so many of us are trying to have. It's so hard to have balance, especially when we have so many things happening layer upon layer. So how do you find holistic balance in those times when it's hectic and it's chaos and that's normal life, right? Unlock your best life with Soul app. Book a holistic wellness experience with a trained guide and start changing your life today with compassion practices, inner healing, food and diet, and so much more. Tap into a healthier and happier life with the #1 purposeful living app in the US, the Soul app, link in the description of the podcast.
Yeah, it can be a really tricky subject to go into because, life can sometimes take over, right? And we can have the best intentions in the world and know exactly what we should be doing in each moment to optimize our longevity and our well-being. But as you mentioned, sometimes it's that balance is being key. We have to be aware of the things that we have control over in every instance, and being able to be aware of what is optimal in any position versus what we're able to do. We're all human and we're experiencing human life, and we don't have the ability to have ideal scenarios in every given situation. This is why I think it's good to have a mindfulness practice to what you're doing, because it gives you the ability then to step back from that present moment, which can be stressful and overwhelming, and then see in that moment, what can you be doing? If you can't be doing the ideal, what's the best that you can do in that given situation?
Podpitch is the first and only software that finds, writes, and sends pitches to podcast hosts from your actual email address. Podpitch will make sure you get podcast bookings, guaranteed. Link in the description of the podcast. Exactly, yes. And I think some people have their priority for self-care in the mornings because that's when they have some time. Sometimes they have it midday, sometimes they have it evening. So I feel like finding what works for you is the first step. Like before, when I had college classes very, very early morning, I couldn't really prioritize my self-care in the morning because I had to get up and go to school. And if I would be completely unbalanced and overly exhausted. So during that time, I remember I carved out some time in the evenings that I would take a yoga class or do some kind of meditation with my friends or something like that, that I would remain consistent. And I think that really helped. Do you have any kind of favorite practices now that you love to do that you kind of incorporate into your either weekly or even daily practice?
Yeah, absolutely. And interesting that you mentioned college, because I remember back when I was in university too, I was training in the gym at normally half 11, 12 o'clock at night. Now I look back and think, wow, the impact that was having on my circadian rhythm.
Yes.
It's crazy. But yeah, so for me now, I try and dedicate the morning time to that. So I try and still make sure I get a good 7 hours sleep minimum, but then wake up with ideally like half an hour, 45 minutes before the day gets going. And so for me, I always start off with hydration, simple first thing waking out of bed. And then I move into my morning prayers. I'm Muslim, so we practice our morning prayers. And this normally aligns with sunrise too. How I've tried to develop on these a little bit over the last few years is rather than just the simple action of praying, is to really cultivate that as a um, mindful, loving practice. Being present in the moment, directing the thoughts inwards, the feeling for Allah, for God in my heart, for love. And this has really been a beneficial practice that I've kind of woven in over the last few years. Afterwards, doing my prayers, I then do a fixed meditation for just 10 minutes, um, typically focused on loving kindness, compassion, or otherwise a kind of concentration based practice, either through the breath, through the heartbeat, or sometimes just through the rumination of God itself.
Sanger Daniel's online seminar promoting a positive message of self-healing with bioenergy work together with live seminars and remote coaching. Use code BIO20 for a 20% discount for our audience. Link in the description of the podcast.
And then I move into a 5 minutes practice called the Tibetan longevity rites. It's kind of like a shortened yoga practice. You have 5 different movements. It's great for stretching the body in the morning, and again, you can kind of focus the breath work on that too. And then I'll just finish off that whole practice with about 3 to 5 minutes just of deep gratitude. I just sit there in a kind of a praying position, head on the floor, and just focus on some of those key things in life that I'm grateful for, but the real specific examples on a day-by-day basis, whether it's general kind of things like having a warm roof over my head, living in a peaceful country. For my family is often a big theme of mine. Being grateful for the family that I've been blessed with, and then I'll sometimes go into different specifics as well, just so you can kind of develop that gratitude practice early on in the day. I find it to be really beneficial.
That's beautiful. Yes, that awareness of gratitude and to be able to like write it out is so beautiful, and it's so true. Like sometimes when we feel like we're in a state of helplessness, maybe that would be hard to label out everything that we're grateful for, but in those moments to find, like you mentioned, the simplicity of it, that's like the core of our presence. And I feel like when we hone in on that presence, we're going to be able to find so much more joy, because through gratitude, I feel like that is totally the portal towards receiving abundance, receiving clarity. And so many of us struggle with finding our purpose at times. But if we search to find gratitude, I feel like that's the first step to figuring out our purpose. Because when we are grateful for what we have, for what we are, for what we can share and experience with others, that's already including us into the abundance of the universe, right?
It is, yeah. It just opens that doorway, doesn't it? To be able to be grateful for what we have, and you mentioned purpose there, which is such a key component to it too. If you can get to the stage of recognizing what your purpose are in life, then this can really open the doors even further, because you can align that with the gratitude practice. And if you can combine those, I think, with the ability to serve others through your purpose, and that's kind of one of the big things with abundance as well. It's about having the gratitude, but it's also about giving back to others, and then kind of opens up those doorways in a big way.
Yes, totally. What do you think is your purpose now? And does your purpose shift over time, like over a period of time?
Yeah, everything's kind of always a bit of an evolution. So, for me, and I forgot to mention that earlier on, but actually in my morning practice, I just really focus on the 3 core purposes that I've defined in my life now, which are quite broad. So I have, initially being a good husband, being a good father, best husband, best father that I can be. Secondly, is to help those in suffering and need. Charity plays a big role in my life, and I like to try and reinforce that as much as I can. And then the last purpose is to help others optimize their health and well-being. which is part of the work that I'm trying to do on social media and educating others towards living a healthier life.
That's amazing. Yes, very inspiring. How do you help people by optimizing their wellness? For people who are learning about this and trying to find more clarity in health and lifestyle, what is the like overarching theme that you've been seeing recently that really can help people improve their longevity and happiness with their health?
So I think some of the big things are reverting back into more of a natural way of living, because as modern life has accelerated, we've got so much convenience, so much technology, which does serve us with a great purpose, with a real benefit, but it can often come at the expense of our health and well-being in ways that aren't necessarily clear at the time. So if I was looking at one big way to do that, if we're looking at diet, for example, it's just eat a whole foods based diet.
Whole foods, right?
Yeah. Largely, I think the evidence would support largely plant based, though with the inclusion of animal products, if that's right for you. And just avoiding those ultra processed foods, really. If you could do that, you're going to be 90% improvement. And then you can start looking into the different ways in which you could tweak that based on your individual needs. But for the majority of people, that's one of the big ones.
Yes, it sounds so simple, but it's like when people have been kind of programmed since childhood or from school or like camp or something to just eat whatever or eat those processed foods, it's very difficult to come off of it. And sometimes people even experience like withdrawals, and with the addictions, there's, sugar addictions. So it's very interesting the shift from like processed into more holistic base. The body does go through kind of an intense shift to try
It
to align towards the correct eating. I remember when I think it was like high school, and I just was like eating like whatever I wanted because, I thought I was growing. So I just wanted to eat all these things. And I had a little bit of a sweet tooth, like too much. And I was also eating in a way that I didn't feel fulfilled. So I didn't feel nutritionally full. And I just kept eating. But, that's like a problem because that means that the body is like not absorbing some kind of specific nutrition that it needs. But
Yeah.
I wasn't aware at that time. And then after years, when I went through a whole detox and was learning about holistic food, I took a break from meat initially, and I was like, wow, like my body is like healthy, losing more weight in a healthy way, consistent way. And then I had more energy. I had the ability to like to think more clearly, which was so cool. And then I started craving meat in a way, but not to the point where I was like obsessed, but I started to eat meat and I even felt better. So it's interesting how like we shift diets, and when we
Yeah.
listen to our body, we kind of learn and we try to do the best for our body. Like some people don't want to eat plants, like only plant based, and some people don't want to eat meat based. But it's like
Yeah.
whatever works for their body at that time. I feel like having that intuition, a connection to your body really helps to create a healthy lifestyle. Have you had experience with like shifting diets and how that influenced your overall health?
Yeah, actually. So I've been kind of really interested in my personal nutrition since I think the age of about 18 was when I kind of joined the gym and wanted to get bigger and put on more muscle. That was kind of the key goal at the time. And yeah, then I look back and those kind of days I was eating between 8 and 10 meals a day, probably in excess of 5 to 6,000 calories a day. Quite intense back then. Um, but interesting you mentioned too about swapping over to the plant-based side of things. So I was I went on a bit of a gradual shift myself, and with our family as well, from uh, eating meat and then kind of just gradually starting to cut meat out unintentionally, actually, and then kind of ended up to a position where we were just eating oily fish. We were still having eggs, then we cut milk out because milk was a bit problematic uh, for my wife at the time, actually. And also for me, just because I was getting some of the estrogenic effects of the milk, I was noticing a little bit of kind of effects of gynecomastia were getting accelerated. I used to, unfortunately, so use steroids when I was younger, so I kind of get a bit more sensitive to it. And so we started to cut things out, and then ended up to be in actually a vegan diet for probably about 2 years. Um, and did actually quite well. It wasn't like you know having issues from it, and was reasonably flourishing from it. At this point, actually, I won a world championship in powerlifting. So
Wow.
my performance levels was still pretty decent. Um, then we started to reincorporate eggs again, because part of the reason for us going down the plant based was just a little bit for the animal welfare side of things. In the UK, it's not so great, but we made contact with the local farmer who raised the chickens herself. They're all free range, highest quality organic, reared outside, pasture raised. So we started to reincorporate the eggs again, and then kind of went into now a bit of a shift away. So our diet is now predominantly plant based, but still with the inclusion of a few bits of animal products, which is mainly eggs, and also with found a good goat farm as well to get some good.
Oh,
Uh,
that's so cool.
um, yeah, the meat is like for me. Sometimes as well, I have the cravings for meat. I'm just not 100% behind the animal welfare conditions in the UK. We've gone to like Uganda before, where the animals are kind of reared there, on a couple of charity projects with the guys we're working with over there. There's a different kind of situation. So I'm not like against meat completely, but just for me in the position where I'm at, I don't feel that I need to eat it. Um, but yeah, so those kind of shifts that you can go through over time, and you can start to see how your body's responding from them, and uh, doing a little bit differently. As I started to then reincorporate the eggs back into my diet, I did notice a bit of an improvement with regards to body composition, because I think the protein was going up. Eggs are obviously a very bioavailable form of protein, um, and yeah, you can kind of notice the effects even on a short term basis. I mean, you may well have seen it yourself. Like if you have loads of junk food over the weekend or whenever you do, you feel that then for a good few days afterwards. So try not to take.
Yes, yes, exactly, totally. And it's interesting how you mentioned about the animal welfare. It's very true. Like, I know a lot of people who care about animals a lot, which is great. And it's so, it shows that we are caring human beings on the planet. However, when people start to neglect their own health because of that, I feel like that's where the problem starts. Because sometimes people do care about animals, but then unfortunately they go to the doctor, and the doctor's like, oh, you have missing like iron or some kind of, the doctor will tell them they have to like eat meat at a certain period of time, and sometimes they have to make that decision, just like, do you care more about yourself or
Mhm.
your view on animals, which is also relevant and it also makes sense.
Yeah,
So that's an interesting, thing that people have to get over. But overall, yeah, you do have to listen to your body to see like, what does my body need. And like you mentioned, adding eggs back, it's so true. Like that vitamin D might be crucial, especially for people who don't have a lot of sun. Vitamin D, it's like that, it's a healing vitamin that I think it builds a lot of other things, right? It's like a core necessity.
absolutely, it is. Yeah, I think if you use that kind of analogy of treating your food as medicine and the different compounds that are in there and the effects they can have on your body too, then you can really develop a far greater health than you would do otherwise. And being conscious about what the different things are in foods and what you could be missing out with otherwise. And I think a lot of people entrench themselves in these different sorts of camps. As you mentioned earlier on, like purely plant based, or even people that are purely carnivore. And whilst there's definitely lots of benefits within the two, particularly in comparison to like the standard Western diet as a whole, I think when you become so entrenched in that camp mindset, then you do miss out on a lot of the other benefits that you can get from incorporating a wider range of food into your life.
Yes, like I remember when I was doing plant-based for a while, and I was experiencing like brand new things when I think I didn't drink milk for like a year or two, because I think I was like sensitive to just like a lot of meat and fish and stuff. So I wanted to try to cut out like dairy and see how I would be. So I learned so much stuff about soy milk, almond milk, coconut milk, and I was trying like all these different things, and it tasted so nice. And I was able to incorporate that into my lifestyle even now that I'm kind of back to having milk sometimes. I really like almond milk in coffee or in like a hot chocolate. So it's like you can learn all these things, and then as your diet shifts or changes, you can incorporate all those things that you learned into your current lifestyle.
That's it. Absolutely. Yeah, I think
Yes, and what is a good practice to build on holistic way of life? I know you mentioned how you do meditation. Is there anything else that like people who are like more active and they don't want to like sit down and meditate to do?
I mean, for me, when I'm looking at holistic lifestyle improvement, I like to work with five big pillars. So we have sleep optimization, exercise slash movement. Now, I don't want to classify it as exercise for everybody necessarily. You have nutrition, toxin exposure, and then stress management. I think if then you can look at each of those areas within your life and know what you're doing and the different aspects within that that you can improve on to get it better. I like to align each of those with some kind of objective measurement too. Then you can start to see really really big changes too. So I think in modern days, one of the big ones that a lot of people are missing out on is sleep as well. We're all
Very
kind of
true.
conditioned now to be like so productive. We need to be efficient, and we need to be doing this and this and so many different things. And then often it comes at the expense of our sleep, and it gets shorter and shorter. And the impacts that has on our health, both now on our physiology, things like our blood sugar levels, our mood, our hormones. In an immediate sense, like the next day after a poor night's sleep, can all be negatively impacted, and also longer term as well. Its association with chronic disease, with Alzheimer's, and with our lifespan too. That's a big one. Sleep.
Wow, that's so true. That's really important. And I feel like if you can prioritize sleep and try to I even started sleeping with I don't know what it's called, but it's like an eye mask, I guess. You like put it on and just like it's dark.
Yeah,
I feel like that helps so much. Like I never used it and I just like found one somewhere and I was like, "Oh, let me try this." And it helps like to calm down like the mind, the mind chatter. It's like when it's like completely dark. So if you have like dark shades, you can just cover your windows. And I feel like that really helps to put that mood into like it helps to put your body, I feel like, into a deep rest and relaxation so it can fall asleep easier and it
it
can do
does.
all the things that has to do with like resetting and having a deep sleep and all those good things.
It absolutely does. I mean, it goes back to what we were saying earlier on about an ideal way to optimize your health is coming back to natural living. And our ancestors used to sleep outside in the dark. Maybe there was a fire going on in the background, which would give them a little bit of low level red light and infrared light. But in our modern environment, with the lights we've got on at home and our screens and everything, we're bombarded with quite a lot of blue light signals, which they impair our pineal gland's ability to secrete melatonin. And melatonin is the real key hormone that's responsible for sleep quality. And so we can then utilize our current knowledge through things like using eye masks at night or blackout blinds to then create that proper darkness at night, which is what we need for our body to then produce enough melatonin and then to stay in that deep sleep. There's a lot of studies done as well where showing even low level light exposure at nighttime, kind of the sort that you might get if you had your windows open and there was a street light outside, that can impair your sleep quality and reduce your melatonin production to a level that you might not notice otherwise. But when you can get tested for it, they can see these big measures. And with melatonin and sleep as a whole, melatonin is not just responsible for our sleep, but it's also one of the biggest antioxidants that we have in our body. It protects all of our cells from oxidative damage. So when we impair it through light at nighttime, it really has a big impact on our overall health.
That's amazing. Yes. I think like even when the sun starts going down with the sunset, I know some people start talking about like having the lights lowered on in the home. So it's like when there's like a sunset, even like if you can turn off your lights and have like a saw lamp or something like that, I think that's also interesting to consider. It's like then it's like you're reprogramming your body to start preparing for sleep and start to unwind. It's like the natural circadian rhythm. Like it's very
It
interesting.
is. It is. Yeah, I mean, if you've got dimmers at home, you can dim the lights down.
Yes.
Yeah, one of the things is just even the intensity. The difference between like 500 lumens at night versus 1500 lumens at night has a big impact. But a good one that you can do if you don't have those dimmers as well is just to go back to the old style incandescent bulbs. Remember those ones with the filament in the bulb?
Yes.
Yeah. Because they don't produce nearly, well, I don't say nearly any, but hardly any blue wavelength light in comparison to standard LED bulbs. Because in essence, that the wire that's being heated is a bit kind of like a little fire that's going on inside of the bulb. And so the wavelengths that they produce are um, much more similar to the kind that we would have had going back evolutionarily from sunlight. So swapping out your LED bulbs at home for those incandescent ones is a big way you can optimize your health at relatively low cost as well in terms of the light exposure.
That's a great tip. That's like a simple tip that's so simple, and that affects every part of your day every single day. And you want to have like good lighting that doesn't overwhelm your body, and it helps you to relax. So yeah, that's a really great point. And when it comes to, you are the CEO of Ayus Wellness. I
Yeah,
mean, can you tell us a little bit about what you do there, and what is your purpose for this wellness program?
yeah, sure thing. So, um, bit of a longer term projection from it was that I was going to go into medical school a few years ago when I'd kind of decided at the age of about 24 that I wanted to have the purpose in life of helping others with their health and well-being, and thought that going down the medical route was the way that I wanted to go to become a GP or another kind of medical practitioner. And so I went into doing undergraduate and then got accepted into medical school. At
Wow.
which point I became a little bit kind of disillusioned with the medical paradigm in the UK and also in the West as a whole. You know, it's focused on treating the symptom rather than looking at the root cause, and there's a lot of lack of understanding of a person's whole life when some of these issues are taken account of. And then I kind of recognised along the way through optimising mine and my family's health and lifestyle at home that there's huge changes that we can make if we can look at a person's whole lifestyle, both in terms of disease risk and also just for energy, longevity, and vitality in the moment now. So I decided I still wanted to become a doctor. I still wanted to help others with their health and well-being. So I decided to go down the PhD route and gain a greater understanding of those molecular basis behind longevity. And whilst doing that, I thought what I'd like to do once I'd finished the PhD is to open a clinic that I can work with uh, patients on a one-to-one basis. I can look real in depth at their life over those pillars that I mentioned earlier on, to be able to make adjustments as needed in line with both objective data points, so regular blood tests, regular allergen testing, different sorts of scientific testing, so you can see objectively what the health is, along with subjective reporting too, and a step-by-step coaching consultation to eventually get people into a far greater state of health than they are at the moment. So that's kind of the vision to open a clinic in a longer term process. But I thought what I would like to do in order to get that going is I formed Ayus Wellness as a company. So Ayus is Ayurvedic for longevity. So it's just kind of focusing on that idea of longevity and well-being. To develop some of the health and wellbeing products that I currently used, recognised could have improvements made to them, to bring those to market, and at the same time then to start our social media platforms, so I could then build a bit of awareness about what it is that we're trying to do. And it's nothing unique that I'm doing. There's many people in the similar field who are doing really great things in terms of holistic lifestyle improvement. But just to have that understanding of the brand and what we're about, so that by the time when I finished my PhD, it was kind of in a good position then to launch with the clinic. So I've done that. We've started going with our social media channels about 2 years ago. Instagram in particular is doing really well. We've got our e-com store where we've got a range of health and well-being products that I use, that I've designed some of them. Others I've kind of tweaked existing designs to optimize their benefits. And then the clinic should be opening later on this year. We've got a site set out in Milton Keynes. And along the way as well, over the last 12 years, maybe longer actually, I've had a variety of different roles that I've been working on, helping others with their health and well-being, starting off as a personal trainer and a nutritional consultant and different avenues like that. And over the last year or so, I've got back into it in more of a in-depth sense, working with just a few select clients to, again, just to go through some of those pillars of health and to start optimizing them, testing to see how they're doing, and to get them into where they want to be and achieve their goals. With then the mindset that when their clinic is opened, that's what we'll be doing full time.
That is fantastic. So awesome that you took that route. Yeah, that's very inspiring because then you're able to look at the whole, and like you mentioned, it's so true. The holistic health, it's so much deeper than just the Western side of things. Even if you go into like the spiritual side of holistic health, there's also like the chakra system, the meridians, and
Yeah,
everything is kind of like very unique. And some people, they don't believe in this kind of stuff, but I guess once they are able to be more empathic or they're more evolved, they start seeing the world and themselves through this like third spiritual eye, where they start to see the connections and the awareness of how the body works, and there are so many different parts to the whole equation. Let's say the spiritual blueprint is fascinating, and you're adding to this holistic layer. It's, I feel like our listeners are going to have a great experience learning about holistic health on a whole new level. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your journey and your story, and
so, yeah.
some fantastic tips. You have some fantastic tips about how to manage stress in a holistic way as well.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for having me out. It's been great speaking to you too, and particularly as you finish on there with some of the energetic stuff as well. I think that's just something that's just now been getting to be uncovered with the current scientific advances too. And you know, I remember 5 to 10 years ago hearing about chakra systems and thinking, "What on earth is this?" But when you go into it and you actually have an open mindset, and then you can start to read and understand things, you think, wow, this is just because the reductionist view that, to an extent we have in the scientific field for some at the moment, has then kind of reduced our ability to be able to see some of these things that people have known about for centuries and centuries, and it's just another layer to that healing that is so important. So thank you, for everything that you're doing to bring greater awareness to this as well. It's a fantastic job that you're doing.
Yes, yes, of course. And where can people connect with you and to see all your content?
So the best platform for me is Instagram and X. So you have two different content styles. The X is slightly focused towards more scientific based evidence approach in terms of looking at recent studies that have come out, analyzing them, seeing what we can take from them. And then the Instagram is typically like I'm doing short health hack style videos, just breaking that down a little bit more into a bit more general understanding kind of sense.
Yes,
So
love your Instagram reels. They're very fun. They're very entertaining and informative at the same time.
glad to hear that, Ali. Thanks.